Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 80 of my modded Factorio playthrough. In this episode, we are going to set up ore mixtures and powders, which is the last ore processing step that we need to do before sorting. Enjoy! Just a couple of notes before we begin working on the factory here, that I've been messing with some audio settings and visual settings to hopefully improve the video quality. One thing I've done is increased the length of time that these flares work from about a minute to 4 minutes and 15 seconds. So hopefully I'm more liberal with using them, because now these will actually stay down for a decent portion of the night, so they're easier to use. The specific setting that affects the flares is this capacity multiplier, which increases the capacity of the accumulators to match the longer day-night cycle. I have this set to 1 because I want the accumulators to be in the original value and just have a ton of accumulators. Basically, I'm just nerfing them. It doesn't say here that it's going to change the length of the flares, but it does. So to change those settings, I basically made a little patch to change it as the game loads. One other thing I tried to update is the sound of all the Angels machines, because I know they were a bit loud, and unfortunately it's kind of monotonous where I had to change each machine one at a time, so not just every ore sorter, but every tier of ore sorter, and I included that in the little file I made. So let's start some research so we can compare. Let's see, character movement. So this should only take a moment before the factory fires up and all these start running. It's kind of amazing how it takes a good minute or two for the long line of belts to start clearing up to where everything starts to run. But so there we go, there's the new sound. I tried to balance it with the other game sound effects. I mean, I know you can just go into sounds here and change some of these effects to make it sound better, but that would change the sound of every machine, and every machine doesn't have a problem, only some machines. So me being the perfectionist that I am, I like the sound design to be as good as possible. That should be a fairly comparable sound to other things you can do. Seems pretty reasonable. I didn't want to make them too quiet to where you basically couldn't hear them. See, the zaps of the electrolyzers are a lot quieter. The worst offenders, though, of noise are these chemical plants and anything that uses that same sound effect, because those were really loud. I really had to turn those down a lot. And the sorting facilities, those were extremely loud too. So you might have to pardon my dust a little bit that I just went through all of the machines that I have in the factory. So as I use new machines or notice that maybe I forgot a machine or I didn't balance this one just right, that I'll just have to change the sounds as I go along, and I'll just do that in the background to just continually try to make the audio as good as possible. But I also quieted down all of these vehicles too. So it's still a little loud, which seems to make sense, because you're inside a vehicle. But it's nowhere as loud as it was before. Like, a weird side effect is I had these chemical plants turned down really low, but then you could actually hear the fluid in the pipes louder than the actual chemical plants themselves, which seems a little wrong. So I tried to balance it all as good as possible. Well, with that out of the way, let's get back to it. Sorry, I can't throw a flare right there. I'm not there. But we have our 6 belts of crushed ores and 6 belts of chunks. But that's not quite everything that we need to do the sorting, because we're also planning on doing some powder crushing as well. So let's figure this out. These numbers seem pretty well balanced. but let's fine tune it. And this is an obligatory number, but since everything else is being based on one red belt of each item, let's just do one red belt of each crushed item too. So we have the crushed ferrous mixture and crushed cupric mixture, and then the powder versions of both of those as well. So we can kind of get rid of this for a second. Let's say we want an output of one red belt of the ferrous powder, which will require one red belt of the mixture. But we also want a red belt of the mixture, so we'll put that in there. And now it's red because it's showing it as extra. So this makes sense that we're making 2 belts worth of the mixture and turning one of those belts into powder. And in the end, we'll have 1 red belt of each. And here's our setup. 5 ore crushers and 13.4 powderizers, and that seems to make sense. But we also need to take care of these milling drums. Let's see if we can remove that and do that in here. So to make 10 milling drums. Let's see, let's get rid of all of that. Get rid of the junk. We want to do the one that reuses them. And that's 13.4 assembly machines, and conveniently that matches the number of powderizers we can use. So we certainly can do some direct inserting there. And it will require 100 lubricant, which sounds like way too much. Well, we'll be putting out quite a bit. Well, this is at maximum, not necessarily what we'll do all the time. That lubricant's actually going to be a byproduct here, so if we don't have it available, then the advanced crushing will not occur. We'll just be using it up as it comes along. But it looks like we'll have a decent amount of it, so it's not completely crazy to set up 2 red belts of each of these types. So yeah, there's the setup, and then basically times 2 here because we need to do the cupric version of the same mixtures. So we have a bit of a shopping list. We need our 10 ore crushers and 28 powderizers. Let's just set this to 10. And we need lots of assembly machines. 28 as well. But we're not manufacturing them on the bus yet. Probably should, but I'll save that for another time. Luckily we have all of the intermediate materials in our inventory, so producing this is quite quick. But that's why those things are on the bus. So we can just grab a stack and get back to it. Okay, we should be good. Let's go for a short drive. Let's see where to build all this stuff. Well, it makes the most sense just to place them all right here. So it looks like we have a whole bunch of trees to move. Let's just get rid of everything. See, while the robots are doing their work, let's just find another clear spot to build a pattern for these machines. And yes, that when you look at the quantity of crushed mixture here, we need 60 total units is our output, which means we need 20 of each of the inputs, which would almost completely monopolize our ability to make crushed resources. And that's okay. It's not intended that all these machines run at the same time, just that they're balanced around a certain capacity. And in this case, we're just doing one red belt. So that's fine that it potentially can't run all these at the same time. Okay, we only need 5 machines here. Let's see, something like this maybe. What kind of inserters do we need? Looks like fast inserters will be fine. We'll just need one for each color. And I'll have them coming down since the ore bus will be up here. Actually, they need to be red. So we'll have our first belt. Second belt. And the third one, to be able to reach, needs to be spaced out here. And we need some undergrounds. Might be nice to get rid of those flashing. If we can. There we go. Just a little easier to look at. And as far as inserters, we need quite a few. Looks like 2 stack inserters per machine. Barely, but we do. But we can make that work because we're doing 2 belts. Let's see, 1 belt can go up. 1 can go down. Although because we have an odd number of machines, it might be hard to fully compress these belts. Having an odd number of machines is kind of annoying. Mainly because we're just trying to max out these 2 belts. In that case, let's just make 6. We don't need it for the purposes of production, but I'm worried about balancing these belts here. Let's see, how are the robots doing? They're still working? Yep. So we can do the regular. And then near side. Let's do the long-handed near side. Long-handed, regular. Okay. That should be pretty well balanced. Let's plop some lights in here before it gets too dark. So now these need to go into 14 ore powderizers. What kind of inserters do we need? Actually, believe it or not, yellows will get the job done. Let's see, let's place it 1, 2, 3. Right there, set it to ferrous. Then yellow, yellow, yellow. But we need to fill up the belt properly, so let's do that. Copy it real quick. And then invert this side. So regular, regular, regular. Near, near, near. Alright. So there's our 6. Let's bump it up to 14. So there's our 12. And 13 and 14. Let's make sure all the inserters are set correctly. So it's regular, near, regular. So we should end with a regular and near, but we don't. Because this is backwards. That regular. And that's near. Okay. And that should be pretty good. Those are our two outputs. See if we can move these lights around. Yeah, it makes that a little dark over there. About that. Yeah. I think that'll be fine. And there's our setup. Okay, let's make a blueprint. Then we need to figure out where to put them. Well, there's nothing that's really here. So, might as well, just for consistency, maybe line it up with the flotation cells. But we also kind of need to figure out where do we want these belts to go. Well, we could have the ferrous mixtures there, 2 belts, and then the cupric mixture. And for symmetry, we need to have that gap there, so 4. But for symmetry, let's put 2 more belts there, because we also need to figure out how many catalysts we need to produce. We need to produce catalysts to efficiently create iron, copper, lead, and tin without any byproducts. Let's set up, just as a experiment here, a couple of machines. And let's set some arbitrary numbers and see what kind of output we get. So what about 1 red belt of each? See, we can kind of do that, but we're not using up all of our resources. So let's set iron to 60. And we're not quite using up the rest of this stuff either. I mean, it's not going to be a perfect ratio here. That's okay. Just an experiment to kind of see. Well, all those numbers add up to 6 red belts. So that means we need 45 catalysts in total, or 1.5 belts. So having 2 belts here for our catalysts will work just fine. I feel like these flares are a little too loud. I have to put that on the list of things to quiet down. So sorry about that. So now we know where we need the outputs to go. So where are we putting this? You can see it's much smaller than these other machines, so not too much work needs to go into placing it. We have, looks like 4 gaps on these belts here, so let's do the same thing. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And we also want to kind of line up the machines as best as we can right here. So something like that ought to work. I'm going to drive the robots, put the fuel back in there, drive the robots out of the way. Since this is a small setup and we can just build it by hand, we can just build it with the nanobots. There we go. Although I will let them pick all of this up, since that'll be pretty easy for them. Let's see, where do you connect them? That ought to work. Out of red belts. Okay, let's just build this same thing again. But right here. A gap of 2 belts ought to work. And set these for the Kubrick. Oh, whoops. Totally forgot about the handling of the milling drums. Well, let's get that done here, and then we can update this. Well, since these machines are 2 squares wide instead of 3, direct inserting might not work very well. Well, in that case, I won't worry too much about the direct inserting. We'll just make them whatever size they want to be. Since the machines are a little too small for direct insertion. I mean, we could make it work, kind of. I mean, it would only be direct inserted on one side, which is kind of the whole problem. Well, since we have 2 outputs, these need to be set up as filter inserters. So let's set this to be the Cooper powder. And the near side version. And then basically the same thing, but for the drums. And actually the drum output is going to be relatively slow, so a yellow belt will work just fine. So set that up to use milling drum. Now we need 14 of these machines. We'll have an inserter going in 1 space lower, just so it doesn't kind of fight a little bit with that other inserter. And then an output, a regular one, and a near one. Let's just make it repeatable. And we need to get the fluid in there, so we probably want to space this a little bit. Well, if we put it right here, we can kind of do this. Let's see if we can make that work. Okay. There's a good repeating pattern. So we can copy this bottom part, put it up here, and it looks like it's lined up. Excellent. Okay. Let's get the rest of these. So we have 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. Oops, that one's a little off. 11, and 13, and one more. Okay, is that all of them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Excellent. And we're going to need a lot more inserters than we've got. And then this belt right here are the fresh ones, which need to come in through this other side. Kind of right up there. So let's get rid of this. Okay, let's pick this setup so we have a little bit of room to work here. Okay, we just need long-handed inserters right here. That should be pretty good. So let's slap these crushers back in here. Actually, let's put the yellow belt right here. And it looks like we need some bots. Well, I kind of don't want to go all the way back to base for this, so let's just use the crawler since it's here now. And let's have this belt going down there. Okay. I think that's pretty good. Where we have our 3 input belts right here. It gets crushed into a mixture. 2 output belts. One goes up in that way. The other one goes down here. And that goes into the powderizers, which also pick up a load of milling drums from here. But they send their output of powder up there. And the empty drums down here, which get processed in the assembly machine and then sent around the ways again. Let's see. It's about time for some lights. There we go. And we also need a bit of a buffer chest in here as well. Let's see, let's just put it right here. And it'll fill up to whatever it fills up. We'll get it seated later. And that should be the new completed setup. So now we've got to move it a few squares. Let's put 4 squares of gap in here. Try to line it up as best we can. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, that's going. Did notice a small improvement we can do to this rubite mining, where we can prioritize the nitric acid mining as much as possible. Similar to how we did it right here. And in fact, could probably just make a bit of a blueprint from it. Let's see, let's just take all this out. I kind of don't want to use silos anymore, but we'll just we'll fix that. So, where to place this? Can't really do anything about this guy. Can kind of put a splitter here. Put it going this way, but that pipe's kind of in the way, which is annoying. And in doing so, it splits the left and the right apart from each other. So if you see how this splits this belt equally in half, so it doesn't really matter. But we have this underground belt here, so the left side of the belt can only fit through here. And then our output is just the left side. And if we go on this side, only the right can go through, leaving us with just the right side of the belt. Let's see. Well, we can kind of pull this one the other direction. It doesn't have to be perfect to get the job done. There we go. We can do something like that. It'll be a small improvement, but an improvement nonetheless. Looks like that is empty already. I'll just pick it up for now. We'll have to replace something like it later. Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a zigzag, but oh well. So we have our inputs. And we can set that to only run if rubite is less than 4,000. Then if it gets below 2,000, we can take this other input, which is from the non-acid related binding. It's a small improvement. Hopefully it makes some difference, but it might not, but oh well. And just have the output right there. Hopefully that helps a tiny bit. At least all the machines are running at full blast, which is always good. Let's build this whole setup again. Lined up right about here with 2 spaces. Okay, let's get these machines adjusted. Let's do ferrous first. Okay, looks pretty much set up. Now we just need to get it all logistically hooked up. Well, for one, we can kind of move this strong box down a little bit. How much is in there? Quite a bit. But that's okay. We can just sort of pick it up here. Then grab some belts and extend it down. Just till we get to the end somewhere. Okay, now we need to pipe in the resources. We need sapphirite, jivalite, and rubite here. Let's do this the easiest way possible. Where rubite would go there. I guess that's jivalite and sapphirite. Might be kind of hard to fit all this in here. Well, let's see what we can do here. Might have to make that the jivalite for logistics reasons. And let's make this rubite. And everything else just needs to jump across. So let's see if this is a mess or if it works properly. Well, seems pretty good. I'm going to avoid hooking it up right now. I just want to get all the belts lined up. Okay, we need to do the same thing for the Cooper. And it's just the other 3 colors. Let's do the bobmonium there. We might just have to do a little bit of zigzag here for the stereotype. It just all depends. The same thing, but move it over 1 square. And then can we do stereotype right here? Actually, yes, looks like it. Out of belts and stuff again. Let's see, hopefully this works. Okay, seems like it. We've got our rainbow. Okay, we've got some belts to extend. Okay, here's the output of the mixture. Let's just line it up right here. Actually, you should probably go all the way to the top so there's no belt overlaps. And then the powder. comes up through here. Then the other mixture comes up through here. And the other powder. We need to both get lubricant over here and also seed this thing. I don't know how long it's going to take one assembly machine. Probably quite a while to seed this, but let's see, let's just put it here. Let's make a milling drum from steel and lubricant. And I'm not sure where these pipes will ultimately connect, but let's just do this. And it's a temporary measure, so we'll just kind of plop some stuff in here. And let's set this to give us, how about a stack? I assume they stack in units of 200. Let's do 100. Milling drum is less than 100. Let's see. So we've got to connect all of these pipes together. This isn't a half bad spot to do this. It does require moving a few things here. Let's just put it up here, so nothing needs to be moved. Well, we need to get lubricant over here, and there's a couple different ways to do it, but we need to think about volume. That if this whole setup is going at full blast, it's going to be requiring 200 lubricant a second. And I think each truck holds 500 lubricant with the upgrades that we have. So that's going to be a truck every other second or so, which sounds like an awful lot. But I don't know if we really want to run a train. I mean, we have the infrastructure to do it. But is it worth building the actual train station? Probably not, because this is kind of in the middle of the base, and I don't know if I want to build a train station just for lubricant at this stage. I might regret it, but for now, let's just build some pipes here. And we have a whole bunch of them. It'll be easy enough to run it along the road. Okay, we've got lubricant up here. It is set to a drone station, but if we're not using that, that'll be okay. Let's just run straight down. Okay, that fits pretty well. And it's connected. Looks like we got some more trees in the way. Well, I know the fix for that. Alright, let's get this hooked up. Okay. Lubricant is filling up, but we probably want to have a nice tank here. Because anytime fluid flows a long distance, It's always a nice idea to have a pump and a buffer tank in here, just to make sure there's no problems. So we're filling up on lubricant. And we're still pretty good with mineral oil. Let's see, I do see a bit of a problem where we want residual gas to only go down to make fuel oil if we have enough lubricant, because lubricant is more important. So let's get that fixed. And we can use an overflow valve for that. And plop that right there. There we go. Excellent. And we might run through all this mineral oil. That wouldn't be a terrible thing, because we certainly have a lot of it just sitting around here. 20k barrels worth. I have the feeling sooner or later we're going to run out of it. We're going to be limited based on just how much byproduct we have to work with. But that's okay. That's why we have different methods of ore sorting, because it's hard to predict exactly what the factory is going to do at any given time, so you want to have options. How are we doing here at Bobmodium? And we've got some empty machines. Still going. But we're at 46%, so Sapphirite's at 28%. What does that look like? It's going. It's holding up for now. Good enough. Okay, we need to seed all these. Let's just put a couple stacks of steel in here. Seems like it's going at an alright rate. While we're waiting, see if we can get some better radar coverage out here. Yeah, something like this ought to work. Okay. That one's filled up. Looks like we're just about to lose our light here. But let's see. Let's see how all this works. So when we hook up these belts, we should get our output of crushed ferrous, as well as the powdered ferrous. So let's test it. Pretty good. It's very green. Make sure we have enough of a buffer. We have these milling drums, probably just tearing through lubricant. I think I need to adjust the volume of these machines. They sound a little loud. But I don't think I actually adjusted them at all, so noted for later. And there we go. There's the green. Worked flawlessly. So we don't need this seeding machine anymore. Alright, let's do this side. For the cupric mixture. That is very orange. Looking pretty good. Moves pretty quickly. So there's our Technicolor belt continuing. We just have these two slots right here, which need to be catalysts, but that's going to be a little ways down the line, so we're just going to have to leave the slot open for now. How's lubricant looking like? Alright, it's still full, but what's it look like out here? Okay. It's running low. Well, if/when it runs out, we can just set up a drone path to start emptying out all these many barrels of oil and send them up there. Drones are really cool for temporary applications. So we don't want to permanently move these barrels here because this is just a temporary storage to begin with. So those drones are pretty nice for just moving byproducts around just to help clean up the factory when you don't want to, you know, set up a belt or a train that's much more permanent than just setting a depot and letting the drones handle it. Don't need any of this. And we're good. And that's the end of this episode. In the next one, we are going to talk about the theory behind Tier 2 ore sorting. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.